The bill we're debating is important because it presents an opportunity to set out new, responsible and green vision for the city and financial services. But the government is squandering that opportunity. That's why I'm rising to speak in support of amendments that enshrine climate protections and harness the power of the city to act as a force for people and planet. Just look at the resources in that sector. Globally, privately invested financial assets are expected to reach $145.4 trillion by 2025, a 250% growth in less than 20 years. In the UK, pension assets amount to a staggering $2.7 trillion. The financial challenge for decarbonising the economy is significant. The UN have estimated that globally we require £90 trillion of infrastructure investment by 2030 alone. In the UK, private investment in carbon-cutting activities needs to grow by an extra £140 billion over the next 5 years to reach our own net zero goals. We should mobilise the huge resources in the finance system to meet the existential challenge of the climate crisis. Instead, financial institutions are adding fuel to the fire, as I mentioned earlier. But Britain is a financial giant and the biggest net exporter of financial services in the world. I supported NC6 tabled by the Honourable Member for Hampstead and Kilburn because we need a strategy for how we use that influence to reshape the system in accordance with climate priorities. But those climate priorities aren't the priorities of the bill. Rather than make it a statutory aim of regulators to ensure compliance with our net zero aims and protect our natural environment, it makes the main aim of regulation growth and competitiveness in the sector. In fact, although it's supposed to represent the government's vision for the future of the financial services, it doesn't mention the word nature once. That's why I supported NC25, which aims not for growth and competitiveness on its own, but a regulatory regime designed for long-term economic resilience, climate safety and nature restoration. The science is clear. Complying with our net zero and Paris Agreement obligation means keeping dirty fossil fuels in the ground, so we should be encouraging divestment in fossil fuels and putting an end to fossil fuel extraction. NC 21 and 26 have my full support because they rightly restrict and provide disincentives of that kind of harmful investment. Not only do we need to incentivise fossil fuel divestment, but also encourage that investors make demands of companies on climate action. I tabled NC8 and NC9 because we need to raise the bar on stewardship rules, putting ethical engagement with companies and on the climate crisis and much more at the heart of investor activity. So frankly, I supported Amendments 23 and 27 because they reinstate the position to limit rules on the kind of awful things that we've seen around speculation on food and betting on hunger. And I think that we should stand firmly against that, especially given global heating. To finish, I'd like to say a short word about the topic of fraud. My constituents have been frustrated by the lack of accountability within the financial sector, services sector. Some victims of fraud are passed from pillar to post, trying to access justice. So I welcome NC1, which tasks the government to create a national strategy on preventing fraud. Although they won't be going to a separate vote, I would also like to draw the House's attention to my amendments NC 26 and Amendment 20, which make clear the responsibility for reporting fraud and compensating victims. I would also like to express my support for NC2, which ensures that everyone has access to essential in-person banking services, because we need financial services that work for people and for planet. As the clock ticks on climate action, now is the time to pull every lever and seize every opportunity to decarbonise our economy and our society. But this bill has prevented us with more of the same agenda, deregulation and lip service to climate goals. As the slogan goes, we need citizen change and not climate change, and I'm afraid that without significant changes, this bill will deliver the opposite.
Craig